Picture this. You're 35 years old, sitting on a beach in Thailand, sipping coconut water, while your former colleagues are stuck in rush hour traffic, heading to jobs they'll work for another 30 years. This isn't a fantasy. This is the promise of the FIRE movement. Financial independence, retire early. But here's where it gets interesting. While some people are living this dream, others who tried the same strategy are now back at work, financially stressed, and warning everyone that FIRE is nothing but a dangerous illusion. So what's really going on? Is FIRE the ultimate life hack, or is it a scam that preys on millennials desperate to escape the 9-to-5 grind? I'm about to take you on a deep dive into one of the most controversial financial movements of our generation. We'll meet people who succeeded, people who failed spectacularly, and uncover the hidden truths that the FIRE gurus don't want you to know. This is Paper Reality, and today we're burning through the myths to find the truth about early retirement. The FIRE movement didn't start with influencers or TikTok. It began with a book that most people have never heard of. In 1992, Vicki Robin and Joe Dominguez published Your Money or Your Life, a radical text that questioned the entire premise of American consumer culture. Their central idea was shockingly simple. Every dollar you spend represents hours of your life that you traded for money. When you buy that $5 latte, you're not just spending $5, you're spending 20 minutes of your finite existence. But the movement really exploded in the 2010s, fueled by the Great Recession's aftermath. Millions of people watched their parents lose everything: homes, retirement savings, job security. The social contract was broken. Work hard for 40 years and retire comfortably? That promise felt like a lie. Young professionals graduating into a terrible job market started asking dangerous questions. What if we don't play by these rules? What if we could escape the system entirely? Enter the internet prophets of FIRE. The Trinity study, the mathematical foundation. At the heart of FIRE is something called the Trinity study, published in 1998 by 3 professors from Trinity University. This study analyzed historical stock market returns and came to a remarkable conclusion. If you withdraw 4% of your portfolio each year, adjusted for inflation, your money should last at least 30 years with a 95% success rate. Let me break down what this means in real numbers. If you have $1 million saved and invested, you can withdraw $40,000 per year, and, according to this study, your money will likely never run out. You could live on $40,000 forever without ever working again. Suddenly, retirement wasn't something that required $3 million in savings. It required math, discipline, and a willingness to live differently. This 4% rule became the sacred text of FIRE. It transformed early retirement from a pipe dream into a calculable goal, and people started calculating. The early FIRE stories were intoxicating. There was Pete Adney, better known as Mr. Money Mustache, who retired at 30 with his wife after working as software engineers. They did it by living on less than $25,000 per year in a modest house in Colorado, biking instead of driving, and investing the massive gap between their income and expenses. Then came the Frugal Woods, a couple who left Boston for a homestead in Vermont, retiring in their early 30s by slashing their spending to under $2,000 per month. Their blog posts about making their own soap and foraging for food went viral. These stories had a common thread: extreme frugality, high savings rates, often 50 to 70% of income, and a willingness to live radically differently than their peers. But they also had another common thread:
that would become controversial later. They all had high incomes to begin with. As the movement grew, it fractured into different philosophies. Lean FIRE, living on less than $40,000 per year in retirement. These are the hardcore minimalists, often relocating to low cost of living areas or foreign countries where the dollar stretches further. Fat FIRE, retiring with enough money to maintain an upper middle class lifestyle, typically requiring $2 to $5 million in savings. These folks want financial freedom without sacrificing comfort. Barista FIRE, retiring from your career but working part-time at a low-stress job, hence barista, to cover expenses while your investments grow. This reduces the amount you need saved significantly. Coast FIRE, saving aggressively early in your career until your investments can grow enough to fund a traditional retirement, then coasting with less financial pressure. Each variant promised the same thing: escape from the rat race. But they required very different sacrifices and starting positions.
Case Study 1. The software engineer who cracked the code. Meet Jason. In 2012, at age 27, Jason was working as a software engineer in San Francisco, making $140,000 per year. He was miserable. 70-hour weeks, constant pressure, and the nagging feeling that he was building someone else's dream while his own life passed by. Jason discovered the FIRE movement through a Reddit forum and became obsessed. He ran the numbers. If he could save 65% of his income and achieve an 8% average annual return, he could retire in 10 years with $1.2 million. That would generate $48,000 per year using the 4% rule. The plan seemed insane to his friends. Save $91,000 per year while living on $49,000 in one of the most expensive cities in America? But Jason was determined. He moved into a house with 4 roommates, reducing his rent from $2,800 to $950. He sold his car and biked to work, saving $600 monthly on payments, insurance, and parking. He meal prepped every Sunday, cutting his food costs from $800 to $250 per month. He canceled subscriptions, negotiated bills, and became ruthless about distinguishing needs from wants. Here's what nobody talks about. Those first 2 years were brutal. Jason felt isolated as his friends went to expensive restaurants while he ate packed lunches. Dating was awkward when he suggested free hiking dates instead of nice dinners. He questioned everything constantly. But something shifted in year 3. The deprivation began feeling like empowerment. His investment account hit $300,000, and suddenly the math became real. That money was generating about $24,000 per year in returns. He was already halfway to replacing his living expenses through passive income. By 2022, at age 37, Jason hit his number: $1.3 million invested. He quit his job and moved to Portugal, where his dollars stretch further. Today, he spends his time learning Portuguese, volunteering, and working on passion projects. His annual expenses are $35,000, well below his safe withdrawal rate. People think FIRE is about retirement, Jason told me over Zoom from his Lisbon apartment. It's really about options. I can work if I want to, I can volunteer, I can start a business without worrying about making money immediately. I'm not retired, I'm free. Case Study 2. The teacher who proved the critics wrong. Everyone said FIRE was only for high earners, but they hadn't met Angela. Angela was a public school teacher in Ohio, making $42,000 per year when she discovered FIRE in 2013 at age 26. The math seemed impossible at first.
How could someone making teacher wages retire early? But Angela had one massive advantage. She started young. Thanks to compound interest, money invested in your 20s has exponentially more time to grow than money invested in your 40s. Angela's strategy was different from the tech workers. She couldn't save 65% of her income. She needed a multi-pronged approach. She lived with her parents for 3 years, saving on rent. She worked summer school and tutored after hours, increasing her income by $12,000 annually. She drove a 15-year-old Honda Civic. She invested in index funds and maxed out her 403(b) retirement account every year. Most importantly, Angela became an expert at Geoarbitrage. She taught in Ohio, but planned to retire to Thailand or Mexico, where her dollars would have 3 to 4 times the purchasing power. By 2023, at age 36, Angela had accumulated $650,000. She took a sabbatical year to test her retirement in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Living in a modern apartment, eating out regularly, traveling throughout Southeast Asia, and enjoying a comfortable middle-class lifestyle, Angela spent just $22,000 for the entire year. She's not permanently retired yet. She returned to teach for a few more years to build a larger buffer. But she proved something crucial. FIRE isn't just for tech bros making 6 figures. It's about the gap between earning and spending, maximized over time. The biggest secret, Angela said, is that once you step off the hedonic treadmill, you realize you don't actually want most of the stuff you thought you needed. I'm happier spending $22,000 per year in Thailand than I was spending $38,000 per year in Ohio. The psychological transformation. What both Jason and Angela discovered was that FIRE changed them fundamentally. The pursuit of financial independence forced them to confront what they actually valued in life. The extreme clarity required, every expense justified, every purchase questioned, acted like therapy. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a financial psychologist I interviewed, explained, "The FIRE movement, at its best, forces people to align their spending with their values. Most Americans are on autopilot, spending money because that's what you're supposed to do. FIRE participants wake up from that trance." The successful FIRE adherents I spoke with all described a similar arc. Initial sacrifice feels like deprivation, then it becomes a game, then it becomes identity, and finally it becomes genuine preference. They're not white-knuckling their way through frugality, they've genuinely changed what they want. But here's the question that started nagging at me as I spoke with more people. What happens when they don't succeed? What happens when the math doesn't work out?
In 2018, a blogger named Karsten from the popular FIR site Early Retirement Now published a series of articles that sent shockwaves through the movement. Using more sophisticated analysis than the original Trinity study, he discovered something troubling. The 4% rule might not be safe at all, especially for early retirees. The Trinity study was based on 30-year retirement periods, but FIR retirees might need their money to last 50 or even 60 years. When Karsten ran simulations for longer time frames, the failure rate increased dramatically. Even more concerning, he found that the 4% rule was particularly vulnerable to a concept called sequence of returns risk. Here's what that means. If you retire right before a market crash, you're forced to sell investments when they're down to cover living expenses. This locks in losses and permanently reduces your portfolio size. Even if the market recovers, you never fully recover because you depleted your principal during the downturn. Someone who retired in 2007, right before the Great Recession, would have watched their portfolio plummet by 50% while still needing to withdraw money for living expenses. Many would have run out of money entirely,
or been forced back to work. This wasn't just theoretical. Real people were experiencing this. Case Study 3, the couple who had to return. Meet David and Michelle. They were FIRE poster children. In 2016, at ages 36 and 34, they retired with $1 million invested, planning to live on $40,000 per year. They moved to a small town in North Carolina, started a blog about their adventures, and enjoyed 2 blissful years of freedom. Then, 2018 happened. The market declined significantly, and their portfolio dropped to $850,000. Still manageable, they thought. They tightened their belts and kept withdrawing money. But 2020 brought a double catastrophe. The COVID-19 pandemic crashed the market initially, and Michelle developed a chronic health condition requiring expensive treatments. Their insurance, purchased on the individual marketplace, didn't cover everything. Medical bills mounted. By 2021, their portfolio had shrunk to $720,000, not primarily from market losses, which had recovered, but from the massive withdrawals they'd made to cover medical expenses during the downturn. Running fresh calculations, they realized they were on track to run out of money before age 55. David returned to work in 2022. He was 42 years old, and the 6-year gap in his resume made finding a job difficult. He eventually landed a position making 30% less than what he'd earned before retirement. "We didn't fail because we didn't save enough," Michelle said, her voice tight with frustration during our interview. "We failed because life happened. FIR assumes everything will be predictable, but life isn't predictable. A single health crisis, a market crash at the wrong time, inflation, any of these can torpedo your plans."
The healthcare time bomb. Michelle and David's story revealed one of FIRE's most dangerous blind spots: healthcare. In the United States, employer-sponsored healthcare is the norm. When you retire early, you enter a terrifying limbo. You're too young for Medicare, but need insurance. The individual marketplace is expensive and often provides inferior coverage. I spoke with dozens of early retirees, and healthcare was their most common source of stress and unexpected costs. Many were paying $1,200 to $2,000 per month for family coverage with high deductibles. This expense alone could consume half of a lean FIRE budget. One early retiree, Tom, told me about his $47,000 emergency appendectomy that his high-deductible plan barely covered. "That single medical event set my retirement by 2 years of savings," he said. "I thought I'd planned for everything, but I hadn't planned for getting sick." The cruel irony is that Americans most need FIRE to escape employer dependence, but employer-dependent healthcare makes FIRE extraordinarily risky. The inflation nightmare. In 2021 to 2023, inflation surged to levels not seen in 40 years. Suddenly, the 4% rule's built-in inflation adjustments weren't enough. Groceries that cost $300 per month were now $450. Rent increased by 20 to 30% in many markets. Everything from car insurance to Netflix subscriptions crept upward. Early retirees living on fixed withdrawal amounts found themselves squeezed. Many had to increase their withdrawal rates above 4%, accelerating the depletion of their portfolios. Others were forced to drastically cut expenses, moving to cheaper areas or eliminating discretionary spending entirely. I interviewed Karen, who retired in 2019 at age 40 with what seemed like a comfortable $1.5 million portfolio, planning to spend $60,000 annually.
By 2023, that same lifestyle required $75,000 due to inflation. She was now withdrawing 5% of a portfolio that hadn't grown as expected, creating a dangerous downward spiral. The FIRE calculators assume 3% inflation, Karen explained. When we hit 8 to 9% inflation, all those assumptions broke. I'm not panicking yet, but I'm definitely concerned, and I'm certainly not living the stress-free retirement I imagined. The loneliness epidemic. Here's something no FIRE calculator accounts for: the social cost. Multiple early retirees described profound loneliness and isolation. When you retire at 35 while your friends work till 65, you lose daily social connections. Your friends are busy with careers and can't meet for Tuesday afternoon coffee. You can't relate to their work complaints anymore, and they can't relate to your freedom. Several people I interviewed admitted to mild depression in early retirement. The structure that work provides, purpose, routine, social interaction, and identity, disappeared. Suddenly, they had unlimited time, but nothing meaningful to fill it with. FIRE solves the money problem, but creates an existential problem, said Marcus, who retired at 33 and returned to work part-time at 35. Humans need purpose. We need to contribute. We need social bonds. Just having money and free time isn't enough. I was bored, lonely, and questioning my entire identity. This revealed something profound. Maybe the problem wasn't just the job. Maybe it was the specific job, or the work culture, or the lack of boundaries. FIRE was treating work itself as the disease, when perhaps it was just the wrong job that was making people miserable.
The privilege problem. Let's address the elephant in the room. Most successful FIRE stories start from positions of enormous privilege. I analyzed 100 popular FIRE bloggers and found striking patterns. Over 80% worked in tech, finance, or engineering. The average income during their accumulation phase was $95,000 per year, more than double the U.S. median household income. Nearly 70% had no student loan debt. Almost all were white or Asian. Very few had dependents beyond a spouse. Let's look at the data. The Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances shows that the median net worth of a white family is $188,200 compared to just $24,100 for a black family. When the starting line is $160,000 apart, living frugally isn't a strategy, it's a survival mechanism for one group and a choice for the other. This isn't just a demographic curiosity, it's a fundamental critique of the movement. FIRE presents itself as accessible to anyone willing to work hard and live frugally, but the math requires either high income, low expenses, or preferably both. A single parent making $40,000 per year with student loans and childcare costs cannot save 50% of their income. It's mathematically impossible. For them, FIRE isn't a choice, it's a fantasy. Critics argue that FIRE is essentially a rebranded privilege. People with high incomes, low debt, and good health temporarily living like they're poor so they can stop working early. Meanwhile, actually poor people live that frugal lifestyle permanently out of necessity, never accumulating enough to escape. Dr. Jamila Stevens, a sociologist studying wealth inequality, put it bluntly: the FIRE movement is largely high earners opting out of consumerism and calling it revolutionary, while ignoring that their ability to opt out depends entirely on systemic advantages that most Americans don't have. The arbitrage reality. Many FIRE success stories depend on what's called geoarbitrage, earning money in a high-income country and spending it in a low-cost country. This strategy has uncomfortable implications.
When American early retirees move to Thailand, Mexico, or Portugal, they're leveraging global economic inequality. Their dollars have purchasing power precisely because local wages are low. They're living upper-middle-class lifestyles in countries where locals can't afford such luxury. Some critics call this digital colonialism or economic privilege extraction. Early retirees counter that they're contributing to local economies and not taking jobs from locals. The debate reveals deeper questions about global inequality that FIRE rarely addresses.
The deep, sophisticated, and authoritative market dependency trap. FIRE's foundation is the stock market's historical performance. The 4% rule assumes markets will continue delivering 7 to 10% returns over long periods, as they have for the past century. But what if they don't? Japan's stock market peaked in 1989 and took 30 years to return to that level. Anyone who retired in Japan in 1989 using FIRE principles would have experienced decades of stagnant or negative returns. Their carefully calculated withdrawal rates would have devastated their portfolios. Climate change, demographic shifts, geopolitical instability, technological disruption, any number of factors could alter future market performance. FIRE requires betting that the next 50 years will resemble the past 50 years. That's a massive assumption. Financial planner Michael Kitces pointed out another concern. The historical data supporting the 4% rule includes some of the best economic centuries in human history. We had the post-war boom, the tech revolution, falling interest rates for 40 years. Future retirees may not be so lucky. The identity crisis. Many FIRE adherents discover an uncomfortable truth. They defined themselves by what they were escaping rather than what they were pursuing. I interviewed dozens of people who achieved FIRE and then felt empty. The goal had given their lives meaning and direction. The achievement left them directionless. Robert, who retired at 38 with $2 million, described his first year of retirement as surprisingly depressing. He'd imagined travel, hobbies, and relaxation. Instead, he felt unmoored. I spent 15 years grinding toward this goal. I sacrificed relationships, experiences, and parts of my youth. And when I got there, I realized I'd been running from something rather than towards something. This pattern repeated across interviews. Many successful FIRE achievers eventually returned to some form of work, not because they needed money, but because they needed purpose. The movement had optimized for financial efficiency, but hadn't solved the deeper question: what makes life meaningful? Money is necessary, but it's not sufficient for happiness. The broken calculation. Here's perhaps the most damning critique. FIRE might be solving the wrong problem. The real issue for most people isn't that they have to work for 40 years. It's that their jobs are miserable, their wages are stagnant, they lack control over their time, and their employers extract maximum value while providing minimal security. FIRE's solution is individual escape rather than collective reform. Instead of fighting for better working conditions, higher wages, universal health care, or stronger labor protections, FIRE says save enough money to exit the system entirely. This individualistic approach means FIRE can never scale. If everyone pursued FIRE, it wouldn't work. We need teachers, nurses, sanitation workers, and countless other essential workers. Society depends on most people working until traditional retirement age. Moreover, by encouraging talented, motivated individuals to withdraw from the workforce in their prime years, FIRE might actually weaken society's ability to solve systemic problems.
The engineer who retires at 32 isn't available to build better infrastructure. The teacher who exits at 38 isn't mentoring the next generation. Critics argue that the energy spent pursuing FIRE would be better spent pursuing meaningful work and advocating for structural changes that would benefit everyone, not just high earners who can save aggressively.
What the experts actually recommend. After talking to dozens of financial planners, economists, and both successful and failed FIRE adherents, a more nuanced picture emerged. The extremes, both the uncritical FIRE evangelism and the complete dismissal of early retirement, miss the point. The truth, as usual, lives in the complicated middle. Here's what the evidence suggests works. 1. FIRE principles without FIRE extremism. Almost every financial expert I interviewed agreed that FIRE's core insights are valuable, even if you never retire early. Live below your means, invest the difference, understand compound interest, question consumption. These principles build financial security for anyone. The problem comes from the extreme frugality and singular focus on early retirement as the only goal. A more sustainable approach incorporates FIRE principles while maintaining balance, saving 20 to 40% of income instead of 70%, building wealth without sacrificing health or relationships, and working toward financial independence without the arbitrary deadline. Think of it as financial independence, RE optional, suggested certified financial planner Elizabeth Nolan. Build enough wealth that work becomes a choice rather than a necessity. Maybe you retire early, maybe you switch to meaningful work that pays less, maybe you go part-time. The goal is options, not necessarily retirement. The flexibility factor. The most successful long-term FIRE practitioners aren't rigidly following the 4% rule. They're dynamically adjusting based on circumstances. This might mean working part-time during market downturns to avoid selling investments at losses, reducing spending temporarily when portfolio performance disappoints, earning side income from passion projects or consulting, maintaining valuable skills that allow return to work if needed. Think of it as coast FIRE or barista FIRE rather than complete retirement. This approach dramatically reduces the risk of running out of money while still providing much more freedom than traditional full-time work. The third element, healthcare solution. For Americans, healthcare planning is non-negotiable. Successful early retirees typically use one of several strategies: maintaining part-time work that provides health benefits, relocating to countries with affordable healthcare or universal systems, budgeting significantly more for healthcare than FIRE calculators suggest, $1,500 to $2,500 a month for families, building dedicated healthcare emergency funds separate from retirement investments, timing retirement to align with a spouse's employer coverage. The fantasy of retiring at 32 with perfect health and no healthcare concerns is dangerous. Plan for medical issues. You will eventually have them. 4. The purpose imperative. Every successful long-term early retiree I spoke with had something in common. They retired to something, not just from something. They had clear visions of how they'd spend their time. Starting passion-based businesses or nonprofits, creating art, music, or writing, volunteering for causes they care about, deep involvement in their communities, pursuing education or skills they'd always wanted to learn, spending meaningful time with family. The people who struggled in early retirement were those who retired from terrible jobs but had no clear vision of what came next. Financial independence without purpose leads to depression, not freedom. Perhaps most importantly, experts recommend adjusting FIRE timelines to be more realistic and flexible.
Instead of retiring at 30, 35, consider financial independence by 40, 50. This additional decade provides more years for compound interest to work its magic, higher investment balances that are more resilient to sequence risk, time to develop work skills that remain valuable if you need to return, more life experience to actually know what you want from retirement, reduced total years your money must last. One financial planner told me, retiring at 32 with $800,000 is risky. Retiring at 45 with $1.5 million is much safer. Those 13 years make all the difference in terms of portfolio stability and life preparedness. Real success stories, the modified approach. Let me introduce you to two more people who found sustainable paths. Sarah's story, Slow FI. Sarah is a nurse who discovered FIRE at 29. Rather than pursuing aggressive early retirement, she adopted what she calls Slow FI, gradually building financial independence while maintaining work-life balance. She saves 30% of her income instead of 70%. She works 4 days per week instead of 5, even though it means slower wealth accumulation. She takes vacations, maintains friendships, and doesn't deprive herself of meaningful experiences. At 42, Sarah now has $650,000 invested. She's not fully retired, but she's financially independent enough to take 6-month sabbaticals between jobs, turn down shifts without stress, and pursue nursing specialties she finds meaningful rather than high-paying. "I'll probably retire around 55 instead of 35, Sarah said, but I've lived a full life along the way. I've traveled, I've been present for my friends' weddings and my parents' health issues. I haven't sacrificed my 30s and 40s for some distant future. And honestly, I like nursing. I just like doing it on my terms." James and Maria's story, project-based retirement. James and Maria both retired from corporate careers at 48 with $2.3 million invested. But they didn't stop working, they stopped having jobs. James now consults for 10 to 15 hours per week, working only on projects he finds interesting. He earns about $40,000 annually, enough to cover most expenses without touching their investments. Maria started a small nonprofit focused on financial literacy education in underserved communities. It doesn't pay much, but it provides purpose and social connection. Together, they've been retired for 8 years. Their portfolio has grown to $3.1 million because they've barely touched it. They feel fulfilled, connected, and secure. "This is what financial independence should be," Maria explained. "Not sitting on a beach being bored, but having enough money that you can dedicate your energy to what matters rather than what pays the most."
So, is FIRE a scam? No, but it's oversold and under-examined. The extreme version promoted by many influencers and bloggers, retire at 32 by living on $25,000 per year and traveling the world, is unrealistic for most people and potentially risky even for those who achieve it. But the core principles underlying FIRE are sound and valuable. Building financial independence through consistent saving and investing creates freedom, security, and options. The goal shouldn't necessarily be never working again at 35, but rather building enough wealth that work becomes a choice rather than a necessity. Think of FIRE not as a destination, but as a direction. You're moving toward financial independence. Maybe you get there at 40, maybe 50, maybe 60. Maybe you achieve full independence, or maybe you achieve enough independence that you can downshift to part-time work doing something meaningful. The scam isn't FIRE itself, It's the promise that there's one true path, that everyone can do it, and that early retirement is a panacea that will solve all your problems. Real life is more complicated than any calculator can predict. Health issues, market crashes, family obligations, personal crises, these things happen, and rigid plans break. We started this investigation asking if FIRE is a scam. What we discovered is something more nuanced and more interesting. FIRE is a mirror. It reflects our relationship with money, work, and meaning. For some people, it's a valuable framework that helps them build genuine financial security and life satisfaction. For others, it's a distraction from deeper questions about what makes life worth living. The movement has revealed important truths. We probably consume more than we need, we underestimate our ability to save, we accept terrible work conditions as inevitable, and we rarely question the default life script of work until 65. But it has also revealed important limitations. Financial security alone doesn't guarantee happiness. Extreme frugality comes with psychological costs. Healthcare and market risks are real, and individual solutions can't solve systemic problems. Here's my advice after talking to over 100 people at various stages of the FIRE journey. Take the best parts of FIRE, intentional spending, aggressive saving, financial education, investment discipline, and integrate them into a balanced life. Build financial independence not as an escape hatch, but as a foundation for freedom and flexibility. Work toward the option of retirement rather than the mandate of retirement. And most importantly, remember that money is a tool, not a goal. Financial independence is valuable only if you know what you want to do with that independence. Before you sacrifice years of your life pursuing FIRE, get clear on what you're actually pursuing. What do you want your life to look like? What brings you meaning? How do you want to spend your finite time on this planet? Those questions don't have financial answers. They have personal answers, and no calculator can compute them for you. This has been Paper Reality. The truth is always more complicated than the headlines suggest, and your financial story should be written by you, not by some movement or influencer or guru. Thanks for watching.